Wow. Okay. No, there's no audio, guys. Wow. Sorry about that. Um, yeah, I think I might do that over. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna cut the video to this point. So that's what I'm gonna do. Wow. Okay. All right. So welcome again, everyone. Welcome to another weekly stock market update. I'm Jermaine, co-founder of the Learn Grow Invest community. We speak about all things related to investing, including stocks. So what we do on Fridays is we go through a weekly stock market review, talk about some of the highlights from the market, see if there's anything that's worth sharing within just an hour. So we're going to look at 4 companies today. We're going to talk about acquisition of Seprod, something that was released about 2 days ago. We're going to go through that. That's going to cover most of the segment here today. Then we're going to talk about 3 other companies. The group voted, so that's what we do each week. I'll ask the group what they want to talk about. So they chose Spur Tree, Wisynco, and Detail, I think it was. So we're going to talk about those companies. If you have any other question about any other company and we have time, we can have a look at them as well. If you're brand new to investing, you're not sure where to begin, you want to learn how to invest, we have videos on this channel that you should check out. And let me see, there are some great resources that I can recommend to you. So we have a quarterly free stock market class, so you can check that out. There's a link in our link tree. The very first link is the next class. That's on June 4th. We're going to talk about biblical investing. We also have a Telegram group that you're free to join. We talk about investing and all manner of things in there. Safe space to learn how to invest. We are on all social media platforms. We have groups on Facebook, LinkedIn, and I mentioned the Telegram group before. And in general, we do presentations, just about anything that you could need support for in terms of investing. So again, if you're brand new, you found the right channel. So go ahead and subscribe, like the video, tell me where you're joining from. I like to know who's joining in, so let me know where you're joining from. And I'd love to know which company you're most interested in seeing the results for that has not been released yet. So let me know in the comments below, not the chat. Let me know in the comments below which company you are still looking forward to seeing. For me, and I think the guys know this, I'm looking for 2 companies in particular. First is definitely Trans Jamaica. I'm waiting for that one, and also Fesco. So those are the 2 I'm waiting for. And yeah, but we're not going to talk about Fesco today. We'll talk about Fesco a lot, so we'll save that for next week, because I'm expecting the report to be out either next week or the week after. So we'll talk about Fesco in our next video. All right. Okay, great. So let me just, yeah, let's go. All right, so this is Sepprod as at May 6th, 2022. Now these prices change every day, and so maybe by the time you watch this video, if you're watching it on the replay, the price is different. But if you notice here, right, 2 days ago, the acquisition was announced, and what we saw was a movement from $60 to $70. I think it went as high as, let's see, it went as high as, I believe, 75. Why did I think it went almost, yeah, there we go, high of $80.57, right? So, and that's, I think the news was released Tuesday evening, Wednesday evening, and then that's what happened on Thursday. That's the nature of our market. Positive news come out, you're likely to see a response. So that's what we saw, and then it traded today for an average of $73.62. It would have started the year, let's check the year to date, started the year at $65. So those who would have been holding from the start of the year, you would have seen there was news about a fire that they had earlier this year, and we saw the price go down to about $52. And it would have recovered maybe about 2 weeks after, trading around the same that it was at the start of the year. And then the news that we saw before would have brought it to the highs of about $80 now ended today, as at the date of this video, around $73. Now, one thing that you need to know if you're brand new to the stock market is that if you notice here, right? So sometimes you'll see it move, not necessarily a straight line, but close. But these fluctuations are normal as, you know, people sell for different reasons, right? So, and it's hard to always predict why. Now, sometimes there could be just obvious news like the one we saw this week, but many people sell for different reasons, right? And so I'm already seeing Dwayne in the chat saying that he's upset that he sold. And let me talk about that for a minute, right? So I know I normally take questions at the end, but it's important, right? So Dwayne is saying he's upset that he sold at 62 and Thursday it was 76, even more hurt that he exited totally. So Dwayne, I mean, my question to you is, so for me personally, I'm not going to sell a company unless I'm ready to move on from the company. Now, it's different from taking profit where you may take some, if you've been holding it for a while, especially, it may feel, you know, appropriate to take some profits. But if you've exited your position entirely, you should be convicted as to why. So if you sold it, Dwayne, then you must have had a good reason. If that reason still persists, if you saw a greater opportunity, then you made the best decision that you could with the information that you have, right? Because unless it was announced previously, there's no way that you could have expected this, right? So don't be too hard on yourself there. It happens. Now, but I mean, it's just typically, for me anyway, I like to wait at least through earnings season before, like, sometimes, I mean, this is just a ripe time for certain types of news. But again, there's no way you could have predicted it, right? Unless there's something that they would have mentioned previously that hinted to it, and then you would have gotten the confirmation later. I don't believe there's anybody who would have known, right? So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that, right? So let's look at the highlights for a little bit. So year to date is up 13%, right? So at the end of the day, doing 13%, you might have made sure it might have feel better to you to sell at the $80 instead of 60. But I mean, that's where it is year to date. Quarter to date up 23%. And in terms of the 52-week range, it's $50 to $80. Now that is 60% if you're able to buy at $50 and sell at 80. But we know that's not how it works, right? There are 733 million shares outstanding, and they have a market cap of 54 billion. All right. In terms of earnings, where they are so far, so we've seen where their performance over the last few years have actually been solid. And we are, I believe that they released a Q1 for 2022 today. I'm going to check that out shortly. This is their earnings over the last couple of years. So we saw where they were able to do really well over the last few years. Dividends, very, very consistent. That's one of the things I like about Seprod. So for 2021, they're actually, I'm seeing 3 dividend announcements. So if you look at that, that's $1.30. That's actually not bad. You can check out that dividend yield though to assess whether or not it was good or great. Then in terms of news, so audit. Okay, so it was audited financial statements that came out. All right, sorry for that misunderstanding. So we're going to look at that shortly, but let's look at the report, right? So this is, let's start with the Observer. I like to start there. So it says Porto, Spain, Trinidad, Seprod Limited on Wednesday announced that it has reached an agreement to acquire A.S. Bryden and Sons Holdings to create what it touts as the leading integrated manufacturing and distribution group in the Caribbean. Right? So the transaction is expected to be completed by May 31st. So that's the end of this month. You always want to look at dates, because what that means is that likely you're going to hear more information in the next few weeks, and you're likely going to see another article. So for those who might not have heard about the acquisition, you're likely to see some report again after the deal is finalized. So you can look out for that. According to the press release, with a team of close to 3,000 employees, Seprod and A.S. Bryden will serve the world's leading food, pharmaceutical, premium beverage, hardware, and industrial companies with an expanded portfolio of their own manufactured brands, right? So that's telling you what the market they'll be serving and the areas that they're covering. So combined annual revenues are projected to be in excess of US 500 million, right? So if you don't know anything about US Bryden, what you do is look at the annual revenues for Sepprod, deduct it from this number, you'll get an idea as to the tune of what AS Bryden is currently doing. And then you can just, look forward to that performance later on. So it says AS Bryden will continue to operate as an independent standalone company and its subsidiaries. That's important to note. So that's AS Bryden and Sons Trinidad Limited, Bryden Pie Limited, and FT Firefan Limited will continue to be managed by their existing executive teams. So, Albert, what's not clear in terms of the screen? Let me know, right? As it relates to the ads, I can't do anything about them that come to the site. So let me know, Albert, and if you need me to zoom in more, I could do that. All right, is that better? All right, let me know. All right, so what it's saying is that the company will continue to operate independent, right? Sometimes we see acquisitions and the companies merge into one. They're saying that this would be separate, so that's important to note there as well. And it's saying Richard Pandoi, CEO of Sepprod, will serve as interim group CEO of AS Bryden. So let's see what it says. That's speaking about them sharing core values. We're privileged to be stewards. Okay. All right. So this acquisition will allow AS Bryden and Sepprod to take a quantum leap in creating a regional company utilizing the best of our Caribbean people to create value-added synergies. All right. Let's move on to the next one. I think that's the same article twice. I believe it was also released on, I think this is Trinidad Express. Let me zoom in here for Albert. All right, so this is the highest that I can zoom, right? So hopefully that's good. All right, so I'm just gonna scroll to anything that stands out. So it says, while neither buyer nor seller disclosed the price, which is important to note, maybe those details will be released later on. It says the Express can report that the acquisition by Seprod was partially financed by a US 25 million bond, right? So that's how they were able to partly finance the acquisition. The 2-year bond was issued, is unsecured, pays an interest of 6%. So you're likely to see this transaction on the financials for Seprod going forward. Has a bullet payment in May 2024 and was issued yesterday, right? So I think this article was released yesterday, so it would have been issued the day before. So AS Bryden was founded in 1923 and they distribute food, pharmaceuticals, hardware, houseware, and industrial equipment. Right, and we have their website here, which speaks to just the products and services that they offer. I'll put the link in the description where you can check that out. Or if you just do a Google search, you'll be able to see the details, right? So let's see what else it says here. So it operates through 3 principal operating subs. We said those before. And FT Firefan entered into a multi-million-dollar partnership with Guyanese company called to launch its IBIS construction equipment sales and rentals icon, right? I think that's the acronym for the name. The partnership opened a showroom at L.E.A.R.N Intention. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Sounds like it's probably French, on the coast of Demerara, displaying its extensive range of heavy-duty equipment. So I'd probably be looking into this company as well, see what I can find out about them. But it's saying it's a multi-million-dollar partnership here. Right, we saw that already. So it's speaking about what the company distributes. I'm just looking for any new information here. So most of this looks like the same. If it seems like I'm scrolling fast, I'm just a fast reader. All right, so okay, right. So I think most of that stuff we would know already. And okay, all right. So let's go back here. Let's go back to latest news. All right, so let's look at their audited financials. So that's acquisition, that's dividend consideration and declaration. All right. Fesco's report is due May 15th. All right. All right, so let's see what their financials look like. So this is their audited financial statements. For some reason my machine is moving a little slow. So just forgive me about that. All right. Okay, so revenue for 2021, $43 billion. That's what we're seeing here. Note 5, I'm going to check that out to see if maybe it does a breakdown. Let's check that quickly. I wish these links were clickable, right? You could just go straight to the note. All right, so this is speaking to a breakdown of their revenue. So manufacturing, distribution, eliminations, 43 billion in total. So it's giving you that breakdown. Let's see if there's anything here. Okay, all right. So out of the 43 billion, that's how it's split. Let's go back to the report. All right, so operating, so gross profit is actually interestingly landed like around the same figure, so about 500 million more. Operating profit was actually less here, 3.5 billion as opposed to 4.6 billion the year before. So in terms of, so finance and operating income was less, selling expenses were a little less in terms of value, and then admin and operating expenses were actually more, about 700 million more, and so operating profit was less. In this case, finance cost, that's listed in note 9. We're going to check that out. Profit before taxation was 2.3 billion as opposed to 3.4 the year before. And taxation was actually significantly less. Net profit from continuing operations, and then ultimately net profit 1.3 billion. Now that's still great profit, but we see a reduction almost of not 50%, that looks like maybe about 33-34% reduction in net profit for the year coming from the previous year. Total comprehensive income, so unrealized fair value gains and losses on property, this is note 10. We're definitely going to check that out, because now that brings up total comprehensive income to 7.5 billion. All right, so we're going to look at what that note is. So note 10, we're going to check that out. And okay, all right, guys, I'll get to the chat soon, but keep on posting your questions and we'll answer it soon. We see EPS went from 3.92 to 2.72. So we definitely want to check out note 10. Let's look at their balance sheet. We're just going to look at total assets. So total non-current assets actually increased. That's attributed to property, plant, and equipment. That's what we're seeing here, 13 billion. And anything else worth noting? Long-term receivables actually went up to 1.3 billion. So that's 27 billion in total. Current assets Cash is 1.6 billion. Inventory has actually increased. That's good. In terms of having goods available for sale, it's current. That means we expect it to be sold within the year. Current liabilities, their liabilities went up by 3 billion. Current portion 3.2, everything else more or less the same there. Net current assets from current liabilities, that's 7.2 billion. And let's see here, share capital remain the same. Capital reserves is 6.7 billion. Retained earnings of 10.9 billion. So that's a lot, right? Net non-current liabilities, deferred tax liabilities would have increased by about 33%. And so we have those values there, 35 billion as opposed to 28 billion the year before. All right. Let's look at their cash flow. All right. So the cash flow statement is split into three typically. Cash flows from operating activities. That's everything that's related to the core operation. Cash flow from investing activities. So the company would have either purchased or sold, property, maybe purchased investments, etc. So that's what we're seeing here. So there was a purchase of property, plant, and equipment of 1.6 billion, because everything here is in millions, so is in thousands. So 1.6 is really saying billion there. Repayment of long-term receivables, 506 million. So cash used from investing activities, essentially 1 billion. And then cash flows from financing activities. Let's see, so long-term loans received, long-term loans repaid, 3.8 billion. And then dividends paid, that would have increased from the year before. When companies pay dividend, it's an outflow of cash for them. And then interest paid, 994 million. So in terms of cash use of financing activities, that'd be 1.7 billion more than the year before. So their cash at the end of the year, 1.6 as opposed to 2.7 the year before. But we can see where that money went, right? So that's what we're looking for. So we said we'll check out note 10. So let's see what that looks like. All right, so taxation expense, that's what note 10 is. Finance cost is here, so let me zoom in. So finance costs is there. We're seeing taxation expense, so it shows how it compared to the previous year. So that's what we're seeing here, 517 million as opposed to 396 the previous year. And then let's look at the rest of it here. All right. So that would have explained what we saw on the income statement. All right, so that's what accounts for, let me go back to it for those who might have missed it. All right, so we're looking at what would have impacted this figure here that we're seeing. So unrealized fair value and value gains and losses on property. All right, so that's what we're trying to account for. So that was note 10. So that's what we just checked out. All right. Okay, so what we can likely expect to see on the next report is more details relating to the acquisition, full cost, impact to their liabilities to repay, etc. So that's what we're going to look for the next one. Let's see what some of the comments are saying here. All right, guys, if I missed any of your questions, just post them again. All right, White is asking thoughts on SOS. Haven't looked at the company yet, and I'll need to check them out and share my thoughts. But it's not a company I've looked at their financials in a very long time, maybe over 2 years. Fesco's report is due the 15th, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, you guys can let me know. Journey with Bantu is asking, guys, please check out her YouTube channel. Just search for Journey with Bantu. Check it out. Please show your support. From your experience, do these announcements normally set a new baseline for the stock price, or is it sometimes a one-off spike? Excellent question, right? So there's not a one way to answer this question. Now, what I like to do is, so let's use a company like, let's use L.E.A.R.N, right? Because they announced an acquisition maybe about a month ago, right? So when they announced their acquisition, I believe it was sometime, no, well, maybe L.E.A.R.N doesn't have enough of a history. I didn't want to use iCreate because we're going to look at them next week. I have a stock review of an analysis for iCreate next week. So iCreate would have had some events take place over the last few weeks, right? So they've made 2 announcements. We covered it last week, and then they had their report. But we started to see an increase in price based on the acquisition news and not the report. The price actually went down after the report, right? So to put context to the question that you're asking, I wouldn't say it sets a new baseline, right? You would have to give it more time. So it's too soon to know what the baseline is going to be for Sepprod. I mean, it's literally been 2 days. I would give it a couple more days to see. But you do bring up an interesting question, because what I find, and this is just me, so a lot of persons can get FOMO from seeing the stock price just jump out of nowhere, right? So FOMO is fear of missing out. So persons might have seen Sepprod's price go to $80 and then try to buy the next day and say, yes, you know, I need to get on this right away. If you're not sure of the reason for the increasing price, it becomes risky to purchase then. Now, if you see the news, you read the news, you understand that there are likely to be subsequent reports, and you understand the impact of the acquisition on the company's balance sheet, income statement, etc., then you might have an opportunity to take a position in that company, because then you're going to see more and more benefits, right? Because all you're seeing is the news now. It really didn't go up any more than just a few percentage. That's Sepprod we're talking about here. Let me actually go back to that one. But that's main event. We looked at them this week. So I mean, new baseline, I don't think we have enough to answer that question, right? I don't think we have enough to answer the question if it's a new baseline or not. Hopefully that answers the question, Bantu. Just let me know. L.E.A.R.N is saying that buyers and sellers affect price, and that's true, right? Because it really comes down to what the buyers and sellers are willing to pay. The truth is, nobody can buy at a higher price if nobody makes it available at that price, if that makes sense. Meaning, it would have been, yeah, just let me know if you understand what I'm saying, right? But it comes down to buyers and sellers, as L.E.A.R.N is saying. All right, so let's see here. So it's hard for companies on the main market stocks price actually jump based on news and reports. I don't know why. Normally works better with companies. All right, so excellent point here. So I spoke about this in the Telegram group earlier. It comes down to the company's narrative, in my opinion, right? So a company's narrative, right? So we look at the narrative of iCreate, company that was known, a company that for the last few years would have struggled in terms of their financials. The narrative now being that they've turned things around, things are improving, things are much better, and they're on a path for growth. That narrative is different from the narrative of like a Wisynco that I shared in the group today to say another great report, stock price didn't move, right? So that happens sometimes when you've come to expect consistent performance from a main market company, then it could be that you need something larger to maybe move the needle. That's just my observation, right? So it really depends on how you look at it. That's my personal perspective, right? It is Lowland, that the junior market companies have potential to grow. The thing that I often find sometimes is that persons are willing to pay or overpay sometimes for that growth potential, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those valuations are deserved, right? And we can talk about, valuation all day, right? There are multiple ways to value the company, etc. But I mean, it's if you look at the performance of some of these companies that have done really well on the junior market versus companies on the main market, clearly investors are willing to pay pay at different valuations, right? Let me say it that way. All right, so Derby is saying one company that keeps going under the radar is Medical Disposal and Supplies Limited. So somebody asked about that in the group today. So I'm gonna check them out. I'm gonna check them out for the next stock review. So thanks for that. All right, awesome. So it answers the question. All right, perfect. All right, so we're definitely gonna be watching to see. So that point that Bantu made, we want to see if it's a new baseline now for Seprod, right? Because really it's just 2 days. So, I like to say zoom out and see what happens, right? So Sepprod in previous years would have gone, I don't know if you guys remember, so this was 2021. So it was actually at $82 last year, right? So if you are holding from last year, you just would have almost hit break even. You're still down at a loss if you bought when it went to $80 last year. Right, so sometimes you may think, "Whoa, company did 60% in a year," but zoom out because sometimes you like to see you're likely going to see a little bit more than what it shows just for the last few months. All right, cool. The next one on the list that was asked for by the group was Spur Tree. So Spur Tree has been very interesting, right? So Spur Tree has been doing some dancing over the last couple of days. So their report has not been released yet. So it should be released any day now. So hopefully next week or the next time we're doing this review, we'll have something to talk about. But from their IPO, there has been no new information, no news reports, nothing to say, the company is doing this or revenues are nothing like that. The only thing that we got was a release that GK was buying more, right? That was the only thing that we've gotten from them. So let's see. There was a resignation here. This was from last month. Yeah, so I think the announcement was on the GK side. So we're not even seeing it here, right? Director. So this was all last month, right? So we're not seeing anything new. If I check quarterly reports, there is nothing there, right? So nothing new has been released. Spur Tree, except that GK would have increased their position, right? So let me see if I can find that information. Well, a good way to get rid of them is to buy the shares, right? Just buy from them. So this is what we would have seen April 26th. So this was last week, I believe, right? I really dislike these ads. All right, so GK got its initial stake in Spur Tree after converting a 156 million short-term loan into 108 million shares, right? GK Limited has acquired 59 million more shares at $3.78 for a consideration of $215 million on March 30th from a director of the company, right? This leaves the company total holdings at 165 million ordinary shares. So the question naturally would be, if GK, well, why would they increase their position at this point? It could be that, you know, they're even more bullish on the company's future. So that's what you'd read from that. We don't know what their time horizon is though. It could be that they're looking forward to something 2 years from now, 3 months from now, 2 weeks from now. We don't know. All right. So Spur Tree director sold 91 million shares, or 5.48% of the company, in March, between $3.50 and $3.78, right? So that's the only news we have about Spur Tree in 4 months, right? So I really don't know if there's anything worth saying about them, except as Derby said, there's been somebody in the queue, and let me actually see if I can bring that up. Let me log into. Normally log into Moneyline, but let me log into JTrader. This time, I'm just looking at my screen to make sure you're not seeing my password. You wouldn't want access to my account anyway, right? Okay. Okay, so let me share my screen again. So this is I don't even know if you can see this. Can I zoom? Nope, I can't zoom. Is that zooming working? Okay, that's a little bit better. So this person, this person or this institution or somebody has had a block of 10 million Spur Tree shares just kind of moving around the queue, various different price points. It started out at 10 million shares. Now they have 8.3 million left, right? So that's been happening for like maybe the last week or so. So we saw them move it to as low as $3. So persons were able to get shares, I believe, on this day. Let's look at the candlestick chart for Tuesday. Right, we saw a low of $3, right? Hopefully you guys can see it, but it went to a low as $3, and this is the same order, right? So where they're talking in the group about it, like if the person really wanted to get it sold, just speak with the broker, arrange a sale, you get all, probably could even sell it to GK, right? So so it's a lot of persons have their assumptions as to what the person is doing. I'm not going to speculate on this medium, but the order has been moving around. Now we see it at $4. We don't know what it will be Monday morning, right? But no new information has been released. The report is due, I believe the 30th or the 31st, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, as you see, it hasn't really moved much, only up 7% in this quarter. IPO was $1. It went to as high as $4.50. Nothing else really to say about them. We need more information to make an assessment on it. Do I think the report is going to be good? I have no idea. Because as I said, there's nothing new that has been released about the company. So it would be all speculation, right? What was the next company? I think the next company was Wisynco. All right. So Wisynco, actually, their report was released last night. Let me see here. All right. So they're all right, guys, I have to be honest. Wisynco is one of those companies on my watch list. I really like the company. I'm going to try to be unbiased in my review of them right now. Okay. So I'm just going to say that, right? All right. So the directors are pleased to present. Let's see. So revenues for the quarter are 9.7 billion, right? Which is a 27.8 increase above for the same quarter for the previous year. Revenues were driven by strong demand in all product categories and channels. And if you watched our stock to watch videos, we said that with the restrictions being removed, because there was a big impact to Wisynco in terms of schools and hotels being closed down. With that no longer being the case, I think they're gonna have just an excellent year, right? So usually their Q1 and Q2 revenue patterns will represent their higher earning quarters. However, this is just timing, right? So if we go back to, let's go back to, so usually they're saying their Q1 and Q2 are the ones that are really good. That's what it says, right? All right. So this Q3, and that's really because I think just how things, oh wait, hold on. Okay, yes, I'm right. So additionally, our increased focus on exports have continued driving growth in the channel, and they're embarking on additional strategies to continue that trajectory. That is an area of great opportunity that I see for them. Gross profit for the quarter was 3.1 billion, right? So we're talking about this earlier, right? Companies that perform consistently well don't get the same response from the market, right? So more than the 2.6 billion achieved in the same quarter for the previous year. Their gross margin was 32%, 32.3%, was 170 basis points lower than the 34% for the corresponding quarter. So we're going to look at what that's the details for that. SDNA total 2.1 billion or 10% more, and expense to sales ratio was 21.3% compared to 24%, right? So they're saying in those categories for expense, they would have gone up, right? Let's see. Balance sheet remains strong. Okay, let's see what it's saying here. So they expect to commence operations at their northwestern. Let me actually zoom in, right? Because this is gonna be something that you're going to see a news article for, and then you're gonna say that you didn't know this was coming, right? So it says here, we expect to commence. They haven't done so yet, they're going to, right? So that's one thing that you can look forward to seeing more details about, right? And we anticipate greater agility and efficiencies from the new distribution center. Final testing and calibrations are being conducted, right? So that is something we can expect to be reflected at a later date. Says on April 1. So we saw that fire that happened for them earlier this year. Thankfully, there were no injuries. And okay, that's just speaking about that there. Okay, cool. All right. All right. So this is for, so we're looking at the quarter, then we're going to look at the 9 months, right? So the quarter, we saw where they're able to grow revenues. For the 9 months though, right? And look at this number here. For the 9 months, there would be about almost 20%. 20% would be 4.6. Yeah, so over 20% higher in terms of revenues. Gross profit, we see that they were able to beat the same period last year. We saw that. Operating profit higher as well, and then ultimately net profit would have grown, right? So solid performance from them. EPS would have gone to 0.22 as opposed to 0.18 before. I mean, just awesome report. Let's see, cash flow. I'm not going to go into it as a full stock review. As I said, that's not really the intent of these weekly sessions. We're just looking for anything that's worth noting in terms of major expense or major income, right? So taxation expense would have gone up for them here as opposed to the previous 9 months. Inventories here, 199 million as opposed to 523 million. Receivables and prepayments. So cash flow from operating activities would have been just marginally higher than the same period before. Investing activities now, we saw where that is minus 152 million. And then from financing activities, look at the dividend paid, right? 1.5 billion in dividends paid as opposed to the previous period, right? So that's what we're seeing there. Overall cash for the period would have increased by 1.8 billion, right? So again, I don't know what else what else you really expect from Wisynco. Solid performance there. And yeah, this is the dividend that we would have seen. Well, the one that was announced earlier this year for 0.2, and then what was paid last year. Well, I don't know if they paid another because JSC doesn't show all of it there. All right, let's look at the last one very quickly. We have about 13 minutes left, but that is Wisynco, guys. I really expect the rest of the year to be really good for them. They are on my watch list in terms of stocks to watch. So I am going to be actively, speaking about them on the channel, tracking them. So let's see. All right, so persons were asking me to check out Derrimon. So Derrimon started the year at 220. They would have on March 3rd gone as high as 297, maybe slightly higher. Let's see what the candlestick chart said. March 3rd up to $3.17, right? And then it would have went back down to about 248. But recently, maybe the last 3 months, they've been making their way back. I think they broke over $3 again this week. So persons were happy about that. Volume, let's look at the shares outstanding. So 4.5 billion shares outstanding, and volume really close to 1 million over the last week or so. Let's see when their financial year is. We did a review of, I think, the detailed APO at the start of 2021. I haven't looked at the company since, so I'd need to check them out. Quarterly financials, last one was November. There's a delay for their annual report for the year ended 2021 that was released. So, okay, so we spoke about them a few weeks ago about this acquisition. So that was covered on a previous video, and this one as well. So we spoke about both of them. So if you missed that video, just search for our weekly stock review videos and you can check that out. So there's a delay for their annual report. The report is expected to be completed on or before July 30th, 2022. All right. So let's see here. All right, same news. Let's search here as well. Derrimon trading. A month ago, so we spoke about that already. So essentially what that says to me is there is no new information about the company. So what we would need to do, if there's anything that, so maybe we could look at 2020 annual report. Do I want to look so far back? All right, so typically if there is no recent news about the company, you want to go as far back as you can to see what would explain. Let's look at how they've been trading actually in terms of PE. So they're considered to be about trading at 35 times earnings. So yeah, I'd have to go through the annual report. Can't do it in this. So what I can do, guys, I can add them to a stock review and analysis because, apart from those two acquisitions, let's see which report would be due now. So 2020. So I think their Q1 for 2022 would be due right about now. So this could be here anticipation for the report. So David actually sent us an Excel file with when the financial reports are due. I would need to check that out to see. But that's how detail has been moving. Volume, as opposed to this period here where it was little or no volumes. Volumes are picking up a little, but there were actually more volumes around this time. So it's really just for us to wait and see. It could just be anticipation of the report. Not sure at this point. There's nothing that I can point to talk about here. So I'd have to do some more research into them to see. So yeah, so let me see if I can. So Derrimon is in e-commerce, distribution, wholesale, and retail. Oh, that's really small for you guys. Hopefully you can see that a lot better. So this is the industry that they're in, and we do see where, you know, companies in this space, based on how things have been going, Seprod, Wisynco, food companies, you know, they are really meant, I think, in this environment to do well. How long they can do well, who knows, because costs are increasing. So we'll see if some of these companies are able to maintain their performance. But yeah, I mean, I'd have to, I'll add them to the stock review list for us to vote on. And if it gets enough votes, we'll just review the stock. That's kind of how we'll do it there. All right, guys. So let me know if there are any questions. Horace, you're asking if we can do a review from Massey. Short review. All right, let me see what I can do for you here. I don't know if there's such a thing as a short review for Massey. All right. Okay, so it came out today. All right. All right, so let me share my screen again. And guys, if you have any questions, just let me know, post it in the chat. We're gonna wrap up in about 10 minutes. All right. So Massey, we knew they did their stock split on March 11th. That's what we're seeing here. So it's not a flat line. It's how it's been trading since. After we pass this, there's not a lot of volatility really. It's really, I think, between $98 and $102. That's where it's been trading. So this is a point that I was making before. So when Bantu was asking about news affecting price, sometimes companies are like this, right? So their report came out today. Let's see how they perform next week based on the report. So let's have a look at the report now. All right, so during the first half for fiscal year, zoom in. So during the first half, revenue grew by 9.6%, so from 5.61 billion to 6.15. Profit before tax would have increased by 20%. Profit before tax from the integrated portfolio increased by 25% over the period, and the machines portfolio and gas products portfolio increased by 23% and 21% respectively. The growth in integrated retail came from all markets, especially Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, and Barbados. The growth in motors and machines was driven by the rebound of Massey Motors in Trinidad, but also supported by growth in Massey Machinery, Massey Motors Guyana, and Massey Motors Colombia. Growth in gas products portfolio mainly derived from significant half-year growth in Massey Gas Products Trinidad and from growth in Guyana and Energy Services Company in Trinidad. Right, so that's what would have accounted for their performance. The performance in operating companies was overshadowed by the disappointing performance in the group's divestment funds. That's the USD investments of proceeds of divested assets and captive reinsurance portfolios from the higher expenses in the corporate office recorded in the first half of FY 2022 than in the same period last year. All right. Let me just do a quick read here. High department costs and consolidation adjustments in the first half also negatively impacted the head office and other adjustments, right? So they're just giving you color to the statement that we're reviewing. So profit before taxes from associate companies declined by 17% due to termination and winding down of major contracts. And profit after tax from this continued operations increased by 43%, driven by Massey United Insurance. As a result, this would have increased from 4% from 314 to 326 million. All right. So Massey is a large company, so you're going to have a lot of companies and divisions leading up to their overall profit for the group. All right. So the group held its annual strategy review in Colombia, at which they reviewed their credible growth strategies for each of the group's core portfolios. Let's see if there's anything new to announce here. So they commenced operations of the Motors and Machines Miami Distribution Inc. So you're going to see that reflected in terms of performance for the next report. Business was set up to facilitate distribution of Shell lubricants throughout the Caribbean and has already made a positive contribution to the company's half-year results. All right. So in September 2021, you see, and this is why I didn't want to start Massey, because this is not going to be a short read, right? So Massey announced signing of share purchase agreement to sell Massey United Insurance to CG Insurance. All regulatory approvals were finally secured, and the subsequent end of the financial year, the transaction has been closed. The net proceeds of this transaction will be added to the divested funds portfolio, right? The proceeds from that share purchase agreement is going to be added to that portfolio. So on January 27th, they began traded on the JSE through cross-listing by introduction, so it wasn't an IPO. We mentioned that on a previous video. And let's see, combined trading volumes, which is why they would have done the stock split, increased by 70%, providing some early evidence that the intended objective to enhance retail trading has been fulfilled, right? So that's the point of doing the stock split, to increase volume traded. And we can see that, right? So look at trading here compared to what you're seeing here. Now, there are more shares on the market. So, I mean, you want to weigh that as well. Given the strength of, where was I? Okay. Let me just continue here. So I'm only going to look at the profit and loss for this one. Not gonna look at all three statements. All right, so for 3 months ended March, so they had maybe a 10%, or I think it's a 9.1% increase in revenue. That's what we're seeing here. So operating profit is actually lower, 112 million as opposed to 122. And net profit is actually slightly lower, 123 million. All right. So EPS, you're seeing that here, that would be lower as well. So I mean, it's slightly less than they did for the same period last year. That's really what this is showing here. Yeah, so let us see here. They mentioned that increase in profit from this discontinued operations. That's what would have led to that here. All right, so let's see if there's anything else worth noting here. We're not going to look at the cash flow really. I think it would not do them justice because it's such a major company. We want to go through everything in full. Yeah, so I'll leave it at that for now. I would say what you need to set your expectations for a company like Massey, because they're a large company. So we're talking about this before, right? The larger the company, you're not going to see as drastic growth in terms of performance as you would for a smaller company. Now, so you want to know if you're holding a company like Massey, to have your expectations set in terms of performance. Of course, speak to your licensed financial advisor to see if that company fits your portfolio. And, you know, hopefully that was helpful. You know, Horace, it's not a stock review, but, you know, hopefully one day we can do that and David can join us hopefully for that, because David has a good understanding of the company. All right, so let's see what you guys are saying before I go. At what price did phosphate start the year? Okay, let me check that. So, I mean, you guys know how I feel about phosphate. It was one of my stocks to watch at the start of the year. So, started the year at $10, right? So, year to date, 248%. So, I mean, can't complain, right? In terms of if you're a shareholder of that company, you would have seen volumes increase, something that was severely lacking for this company previously. And they are mentioning a stock split to happen later on this year. So my guess is you're going to see volumes continue to increase, right? This is interesting here. I'm seeing a peak here. Is that right? Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, Phosphorich, definitely. We've done a stock review and analysis of Phosphorich before. If you want to know more about the company, check out that stock review. Let's see if there are any other questions. Okay, great. All right, cool, guys. So hopefully you found value in this review. If you did, thank you to the 45 persons who are here live. Please like the video. It really helps us. It does a great deal for our channel. It shows the YouTube algorithm that persons find value in the content, and then it shows it to more people. So please like the video, share it with a fellow investor, encourage your friends, your family, your co-workers to start investing. If they don't understand how it works, we have a video called Investing for Beginners. It's our most popular video. It's at almost 9,000 views at the point of recording this video. Check it out. If they watch that video and they want to know what's next, we have a video on how to pick stocks. That's our fundamental analysis video. And then you point them to our stocks to watch video, because the stocks to watch just shows you how we think about adding companies potentially to our portfolio. It's a stock to watch, meaning it's not a stock recommendation, but it's just based on what we see as in outlook for the country, outlook for the economy, what companies we think may do well under the current climate, etc. So show them those videos and they'll maybe have an idea as to how it might work. If they need help, point them to the group where they're talking investing every day. And just stay tuned for our free classes. Let me actually share those resources with you right now, right? So this is our link tree. The link is in every video. You can register for our most recent class here. That's Biblical Finance and Investing on June 4th. Register for that right now. Our 3 main videos here. So if you're a beginner, check out these videos. How to pick stocks, complete guide to dividend investing. So we talk about things like how to read that report or that dividend announcement. So you can check out those 3 videos. Then we have our YouTube channel link. You can request a presentation free. If you are a part of a school, you're a teacher, you're a student, and you want to set a presentation for your class or your church, it is completely free. It is based on availability. If you're a corporation and you want to do a presentation for your team on investing, finance, etc., it will come at a cost depending on the size of the group, etc., but it's very affordable, right? We also have our coaching program, which you can sign up for. We got an amazing testimonial this week from one of our participants, because we did budgeting last week. So we showed them how to do their complete yearly budget. And actually next week, we're going to do 2 weeks of investing, right? So coaching program, if you need that, hand-holding step-by-step coaching program, is definitely what you want to sign up for. It's closed now until September. We're likely going to open it in August and the seats fill up quickly. If you're interested, you can feel free to reach out to us now. If you pay for it in advance, the seat is yours, right? But I mean, yeah. Then if you want to meet, me and my co-founder, learn a little bit about us, watch the video, meet the founders, you can subscribe to our newsletters. So that's what you're seeing here. We've done 21 issues so far. So we'll show you if we have an upcoming video. You can actually use this link and check out all of our previous newsletters. So you can check those out. Sometimes we'll do like, tutorials in the newsletters. We may just cover certain tips, just one time per week, just something that we think that may be helpful for you. Check out our website as well. And as I mentioned, our community groups are there. Just really all the resources that you need to be great at investing. That's why we're here. And we try to do as much as we can in terms of free content, free classes, free tutorials, etc. And we want to provide as much value as we can for you as a community. And that's why it means so much to get your feedback. So if you've been finding value in the videos, leave us a comment, send us a DM, let us know. If you want to start investing but you're not sure how, message us, join us for our in-person meetings, and we'll actually just have an open discussion at Emancipation Park from 6 to 8:30 p.m. Last Thursday of every month. We'll just talk about investing and, just share tips and strategies. All right. So guys, thank you so much again. I'll see you guys in the Telegram group, and really do hope you have a great weekend. We have a lot of great videos coming up for you next week. We're going to be doing a stock review and analysis for iCreate. That's on Wednesday. Tyrone Wilson is going to join us in person, live, to answer your questions. We have a video with NHT on Monday to show you how to leverage your NHT benefits to own your first home. And then on Friday, again, we have our weekly stock review like we're having right now. So we'll talk about the additional earning reports that would come out next week. So we have a lot to talk about next week. All right. So I'll see you in the next video.